Hey everyone! Over the past few years, we've seen a growing interest in DaVinci Resolve, not only for editing and color grading, but also because it has a full-fledged digital audio workstation called Fairlight that allows you to edit and build world-class soundtracks for your movies. So today, I'm excited to announce our newest entry in our Under 60-Minute series, this one focusing on sound editing in Fairlight. As you go through the lesson with me, you'll get to experience just how fast you can accomplish your sound editing work in the Fairlight page, while also learning just how approachable the process can be, even if you've never used a digital audio workstation before. And finally, if you benefit from this tutorial, please consider supporting this channel by giving us a sub or purchasing the full 4-hour version of the tutorial you're about to watch. I've included a link below and a discount code. So with that, let's dive right in. Before we get started, let me show you how to import the project media I'll be using in case you want to follow along. I've provided a link in the description. Once downloaded, double-click to extract it, and a folder will appear with the name Checkmate Media. Inside the folder are some sound effects and a DaVinci Resolve archive. Inside this folder are the project and media files, but they need to be opened within DaVinci Resolve. In order to follow along, you'll need to be running DaVinci Resolve 18.1 or later. With Resolve open, press Shift-1 to open the Project Manager. Right-click in the window and choose Restore Project Archive. Navigate to the Checkmate Media folder, then select the checkmate.dra folder. Click Open. Open the project by double-clicking its thumbnail. A timeline will open in the Edit page that contains a video track of our short movie scene and a stereo track of the music. If you're not seeing this timeline, locate the Final Gambit timeline in the media pool, then double-click it. Close the media pool. Click in the timeline and press Shift-Z to fit the clips to the timeline window. From the Workspace menu, choose Single Viewer Mode. Press Home, then the spacebar to begin playing the movie. This scene involves two guys playing a deathmatch game of chess, and we're going to add a voiceover track and some sound effects to heighten the drama. For you camera geeks out there, we shot this with an Alexa Mini and color graded it using Resolve's color page. Move your playhead anywhere over the clip. To move the timeline into the Fairlight page, click the Fairlight icon at the bottom of the window. Wherever the playhead was parked in the Edit page, the playhead will be parked in the same place when you enter the Fairlight page. This is because it's the same playhead. Because Fairlight is a digital audio workstation, the majority of the interface is taken up by this large track area. Fairlight supports a staggering 2,000 tracks. Currently, we see the stereo track of the music labeled A1, and a track labeled Bus 1. Bus 1 is the master output for all tracks in the timeline. We don't need to see it, so click this button to hide it. Fairlight will always display every channel in the clips that came from the Edit page, so here in track A1, we see both the left and right channels of the music score. Dragging on this slider will zoom the tracks vertically, and this one will zoom them horizontally. Fairlight will always keep the zoom centered on the playhead. If you're using a 3-button mouse, holding the Shift key while scrolling will zoom the tracks vertically. And holding the Option or Alt key while scrolling will zoom the tracks horizontally. If you're using Apple's Magic Mouse, you can swipe up or down while using these modifier keys. Press Shift-Z to fit the timeline to the window. Just above the timeline is the toolbar, which, as the name suggests, provides tools for manipulating your clips in the timeline. And above that are the transport controls for navigating your tracks. In the upper left are a row of workspace panels beginning with a media pool that contains all your imported clips and timelines. This is the same media pool that you'll find in the other pages of Resolve. To the right of the media pool is the effects panel, which gives you access to audio plugins, audio transitions, and third-party audio plugins that you may have installed. Next is the index panel that allows you to view all your track data at a glance, including any markers you've added to the timeline. The sound library gives you quick access to all your installed sound effects and music, and the ADR panel allows you to replace bad lines of dialogue. Moving to the other side of the window, there's a mixer panel, which allows you to make changes to the volume, panning, EQ, and dynamics of each track. The meters panel shows you the current level of every track and output. Press the spacebar and you'll see the level meters in both the meters and the mixer panels come to life. There's also a viewer at the far right, which is a reference display of your video edit. We'll be using this window to align our sound effects. To make it a floating window, click this button, then place it at the bottom of the window. Just below the output meters, we have monitoring controls. You can mute and unmute the sound and adjust the overall volume of playback. Clicking the dim button will lower the output by 9 dB if you need to talk to somebody during a mixing session. Close the meters panel, but leave the mixer open. The metadata panel allows you to view the metadata of selected clips, and the inspector lets you modify your clip's properties such as volume, panning, pitch, and applied audio effects. Close all the panels except the mixer. Move the viewer to the lower right of the timeline. To save this layout as a custom workspace, go to the Workspace menu and choose Layout Presets, Save Layout as Preset, and name it My First Sound Edit, and click OK. Let's look at the various ways to navigate the timeline. To move the playhead to the start of the timeline, press the Home key. Use the J, K, and L keys on your keyboard to shuttle back and forth. Even at faster and slower speeds, the audio is discernible, making it easy to locate word breaks and music cues. The first order of business is to record voiceover. To do that, we're going to need an empty track. Right-click on the Audio 1 track header and choose Add Track, Mono. Let's name our tracks. Double-click on the track name for A1 and name it Music. Press Tab, then name the A2 track Voiceover. If you have a dedicated USB mic and you would like to use it for following along, connect it to your computer. If you don't have a mic, you can use your computer's built-in mic. Open your computer's sound preferences, or sound settings if you're on Mac OS Ventura. On my Mac, I have a number of different sound inputs to choose from. For this recording, I'm just going to keep things simple and use the built-in mic of my iMac Pro. Set the mic level input, then close the window. Back in Resolve, press Shift-9 to call up the project settings. Click Capture and Playback in the sidebar. In the Capture section under Save Clips To, you'll see the current destination of your recorded voiceover clips. If you wish to change this location, you'll need to click the Browse button, then navigate to another folder on your computer. For this tutorial, we'll leave it at the default. Click Cancel. In the mixer, you'll see 2 channel strips, one for each track. At the top, you'll see a button labeled No Input. Since track A2 is our voiceover track, we need to assign it a mic input. Click on the button and choose Input. The Patch Input-Output window opens. Source inputs appear on the left, and track destinations appear on the right. Hovering my pointer over the source icon tells me that my iMac mic is available as an input. Click it once, and a white outline confirms the selection. The white outline on the voiceover icon tells us that the track is the destination. You can also select other tracks for the destination. With the voiceover track selected, click the Patch button, and the text on the icons turns white to indicate that they are patched. Close the window. Next, we need to arm the track for recording. But before we do that, disable the sound output from the system by clicking the speaker icon next to the dim slider. If you don't do this, you'll end up recording a feedback loop. To arm the voiceover track, click the R button in the track header. Move the playhead to 4 seconds and 15 frames. This is where we'll start recording. So, what are we going to record? I'll bring it up on the screen for you. I'm going to deliberately read multiple takes. Click the Record button in the Transport section, then read the lines. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. It was a knight's gambit. It was a knight's gambit. It was a knight's gambit. It didn't matter though. This game was over before it began. Press the spacebar to stop recording. Now disable the arm button and solo the voiceover track. Then re-enable the audio monitor. Play back your recording. I can't tell you much. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. It was a knight's gambit. It was a knight's gambit. It was a knight's gambit. It didn't matter though. This game was over before it began. The primary tool for making selections and trimming is the pointer mode tool, and it's active by default. Move your pointer over the left side of the clip, and you'll see the cursor change to one of two icons. A single bracket indicates a ripple trim, and a dual bracket indicates a rolling trim. When you see the ripple trim icon, drag to the right. As you drag, you'll see the ghosted outline of the media you'll be removing. When the first take is trimmed out, release your mouse. Great! You just performed your first sound edit. Playing forward, there's another false take. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. Park the playhead just before it. Let's look at another way to remove unwanted content. Select the clip. An orange border indicates a selection. Click the razor tool in the toolbar. The clip is split at the playhead. However, Fairlight gives us a much faster way to make clip selections. Instead of selecting the clip, select the track header. Move your playhead over the edit point, and the clip that intersects the playhead becomes selected automatically. Move the playhead past the end of the false take, and this time press Command B to split it. Move the playhead over the clip you want to remove, then press Delete. Play forward to hear the next part of the read. I only remember my last move. It was a knight's gambit. It was a knight's gambit. It was a knight's gambit. I like the second take better. Let's remove the first and third take using another tool. In the toolbar, select the tool that looks like a cross. This is the range mode tool. Position the tool to the left of the false take, then drag across it to enclose the waveform. This time, we're going to perform a ripple delete. Hold Shift and press Delete. The false take is removed and the gap is closed in one gesture. Select the third false take and press Shift Delete. Now let's look at moving clips as a selection. I want the voiceover to end a bit later. While watching the viewer, move the playhead to the frame just after the queen displaces the pawn on the chessboard. Press M to place a marker in the timeline ruler area. Position the range tool just before the first voiceover clip and drag across all the clips to enclose them. The cursor becomes a drag hand, allowing you to move the selection as a group. Drag to the right until the end of the last waveform lines up with a marker, then release your mouse. Because we have a selection range, we can play back just the portion within the range by using a shortcut. Press Option or Alt// on your keyboard. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. It was a knight's gambit. It didn't matter though. This game was over before it began. Awesome. Press Option X to clear the range, and press A to return to the pointer tool. George Lucas was once quoted as saying that sound is 50% of what you see, or something like that. While dialogue moves the plot forward, it's the sound design that immerses the viewer into the world the characters inhabit. Reveal the media pool. With the Command key held down, or Control key if you're on a PC, select the booming rumble, clank 2, high-pitched tone, and thunder roll clips. Drag the selected clips into the timeline just below the A2 track, but don't release the mouse. If you did, all your clips would be placed into the same track in the order you selected them. But I want separate tracks for each clip. To make that happen, hold down the Command key and each clip will be placed into a designated track starting with track A3. Release the mouse. To see all your tracks, Shift-scroll to reduce the height. It's always a good idea to name your tracks to keep things organized. Instead of doing this in the timeline, we'll use the index. Select the Index tab. The index will appear below the media pool if it's open. Close the media pool since we're done with it for now. At the top of the window are 3 buttons. The Edit index presents a running list of every clip in your timeline, including its track timecode location. Selecting an item from the list will select the corresponding clip in the timeline. The Tracks button presents a list of all your tracks in the order they appear in the timeline, including the current track names, the track controls, and the format. Selecting a track selects all the contents within that track. Alternatively, you can click on the track header in the timeline to do the same thing, and the track controls such as record, solo, and mute are found in both places. Select the Audio 3 track name, type out SFX1. Press the Tab key and type out SFX2. Name the remaining tracks Tone and Thunder. The eyeballs along the edge of the index allow you to toggle the visibility of the track so you can focus on just the tracks you want to work on. Even though the tracks are hidden, they're still output to your speakers. There's also a track labeled Bus 1. This is your master output bus to which all the tracks above are routed. Bus 1 does not appear as a track in the timeline, but it does appear as a channel strip in the mixer. You can easily change the track ordering in the index. Drag the music track so that it appears below the other tracks in the timeline. Let's also change the track colors. Select both sound effects tracks, then right-click and choose Change Track Color, then pick a color. I'll go with yellow. Select the A4 and A5 tracks and change them to navy. For the music, I'll go with pink. Move the playhead to roughly 35 seconds, then play from there. We're looking for the muzzle flash, followed by the ejected brass casing hitting the chessboard. This occurs twice within a few seconds. We're going to use Fairlight's unique and powerful copy and paste feature to align our sound effects to these events. Press the home key to jump the playhead to the start of the timeline, then zoom in. Solo the A2 track, then press the spacebar to preview the sound. I prefer the second part of the sound where we hear the low-frequency boom. We'll use this for our gunshot. Move the playhead to the frame where this occurs. Press Command-B to split the clip. If you move the playhead, you'll notice that every clip on every track was split. This is because Fairlight had no way of knowing which track it was supposed to split. I'll undo that. Select the A2 track header and press Command-B again. This time, only the selected track is split. Move the playhead over the unwanted part of the clip and press Delete to remove it. Press the down arrow to select the remaining portion of the clip. We're going to cut the clip and place it at the first frame of the muzzle flash. Press Command-X. Move the playhead and you'll notice that the clip displays a ghosted waveform to indicate that it's waiting to be pasted somewhere else in the timeline. But more importantly, as you move the playhead, the clip travels with it. Press Shift-Z to zoom out, then move the playhead to 35 seconds. Then press the left and right arrow keys to navigate to the yellow flash frame in the viewer. When the playhead is over the frame, press Command-V to paste the clip. Move the playhead over the second flash frame and paste again. Play back the edit. Awesome. Now we'll add the sound of the brass hitting the chessboard. Press Home to return the playhead to the start of the timeline and zoom in. Click the solo button for A3 to include it in the playout with track A2. Play back the clip to preview it, then position the playhead at the start of the waveform. Select the track header, press Command-X to cut it, zoom out, then move the playhead down the timeline. As before, the ghosted clip travels with the playhead, but this time the reference point for pasting will not be the start of the clip as before, but where the playhead is currently located on the clip, which is the first frame of the sound. Move the playhead to roughly 37 seconds. Watching the viewer, use the left and right arrow keys to locate the frame where the brass hits the wood. Currently, we're targeted to paste this clip into the A3 track. However, if we wanted to paste it into a different track, Hold down the Command and Option keys, then use the down arrow to move the ghosted clip into the track of your choice before pasting. I want it in the A3 track, so I'll paste it there by pressing Command V. There's another shell casing that hits at 40 seconds and 15 frames, so move the playhead there and paste again. Because you'll spend so much of your time reviewing your sound edits, you'll need a fast way of creating loopable regions for playback and other edit operations. Press R to call up the Range Mode tool. Position it before the first sound effect on track A2 and drag across all 4 sound effects clips to include them in the selection. The selection area becomes highlighted and in and out markers appear in the timeline ruler area. You can adjust the range duration by dragging on the in or out point or use the I and O keys to reset them. I often find it faster to drag out a new selection. The duration of the range is reported in the upper left of the timeline. To loop the range, click the Loop button, then press Option /. To clear the range, press Option X. The Range Selection tool can also be used to quickly mark an entire clip simply by clicking on it. Click on the Tone clip. The clip becomes highlighted with markers that match the clip's duration. To add another clip to the current selection range, hold down the Command key and click the Thunder Roll clip. The range expands to include this additional clip. Move the cursor over one of the highlighted clips and you'll see a grabber glove. Drag the clips to the right and notice the range duration markers travel with the clips. Drag until the right edge of the drone clip snaps to the edge of the first gunshot sound effect. Turn off soloing for A2 and A3, then press Option /. Aside from some volume issues we need to deal with, the sound design really brings the scene to life. After listening, I'm feeling that the music and thunder sound effects are taking away from the emotional impact of the gunshots and falling brass. We're going to use the Range Selection tool to remove sections from multiple tracks at the same time. Move the cursor just below and to the right of the music clip, then drag upward to include the Thunder Roll clip. Line up the cursor with the end of the Tone clip, but don't include it in your selection. Press Delete. Adjust the range endpoint to include a portion of the tone and thunder, then press Option / to play back the range. I think that works much better. Press Option X to clear the range, then press A to return to the pointer tool. Also, I'm not too crazy about the thunder sound, and I'd like to replace it with another one. Click the Sound Library tab. The Sound Library allows you to access any collection of effects or music that you've saved on your system, either on a connected drive or locally. If this is the first time you've used a sound library in Fairlight, you'll be prompted to download the free sound library with over 500 royalty-free sound effects. You'll need to fill out a quick form on Blackmagic Design's website, then download a zip file and run the install package. If Resolve is open during the installation process, you'll need to restart it. Click this button to reveal a drop-down menu of databases that will host the sounds in the library. This means that you can access sound libraries saved in different databases, regardless of the project library you are currently working in. Notice the Fairlight Sound Library is a database all on its own. At first, it would seem that the library has no content. Let's type rain into the search field. We get 3 results immediately. This is great, but it would be nice if we could see all the sound effects in the database. In the search field, type 3 asterisks. Page after page of sound effects appear that you can scroll through. In fact, all 515 of them are reported here. If you'd like to preview a few of them, select one, then press the spacebar. Press the down arrow to jump to the next one and press the spacebar again. Clear the search field, then enter Thunder. Apparently, this sound does not exist in Fairlight's sound library, so we'll need to add our own. Select Local Database in the Database dropdown, then click the Options menu at the top right of the sound library and choose Add Library. Navigate to the project media that you downloaded, select the Additional Sound Effects folder, and click Open. A window appears confirming that we've successfully scanned 2 sound effects. In the search field, enter Rain and play back the clip. Yep, sounds just like rain. Now enter Thunder into the search field. Play back the clip. Using the playhead, scrub over to roughly 53 seconds and play again. This thunderclap is much stronger than the first one. Move the playhead to the beginning of the waveform, then use the left and right arrow keys to nudge it into place. In the timeline, move the playhead to the start of the thunder roll clip in track A5. And make sure to select the track header. To synchronize the playheads, click the Set Sync Point button, then click the Audition button. The sound effect is temporarily placed into the A5 track at the sync point location we set in the sound library. Play the new sound. The great thing about this method is that if we don't like what we hear, we can click Cancel, then audition another effect using the same procedure. I happen to like this effect, so I'll click the Confirm button. The clip is now too long and we need to trim it. Press R to call up the Range tool, then drag across the waveform to isolate it from the rest of the clip. From the Trim menu, choose Trim to Selection. Press Option X to clear the range. Now let's work on the sound levels of our tracks. Expand the mixer so that you can see all the tracks. Earlier I mentioned that all tracks are being output to bus 1, which is the master bus. Play back from the beginning and watch bus 1 in the mixer. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. It was a night scan. It didn't matter though. This game is over. Aside from the music overwhelming the voiceover track, you might have also noticed that in several places the meters were peaking into the red, which indicates clipping. The culprits are the thunder and sounds of the gunshots. Let's deal with the thunder first. Increase the track height and zoom in. In the upper part of each clip is a gain line that will allow you to adjust the volume. Move your pointer over the gain line, then drag downward until the tooltip reads -9 dB. Play the clip. It's still a bit louder than where I would normally have my sound effects peak, but because it underscores that our protagonist just had the proverbial boom lowered on him, I'm okay with it. Now we need to deal with the gunshots and the ejected brass sounds. At present, to adjust the gain, you would need to do this one clip at a time. However, we can link these clips together so that our volume changes are applied to all of them at the same time. Press A to return to the pointer tool, then drag a marquee around the clips to select them. Right-click on any clip, then from the menu choose Link Clips. If you zoom in far enough, you'll notice a small link icon in the lower left corner of each clip, indicating linked status. Because they're linked, when you select any clip, they're also selected as a group, and as a result, can be moved as a group. This linking behavior also extends to volume adjustments. When you drag on the gain line, the volume changes are applied to all the clips. Drag until the volume tooltip reads -7 dB. Play back and watch the meters. The brass clack sound still peaks into the red, but instead of adjusting the gain of all individual clips, we can adjust the gain of the entire track. Locate the A3 channel strip in the mixer, then drag the fader downward until the value reports -2 dB. Play back the sound effects. Great! Now let's return to the menu and unlink these clips. Now it's time to deal with the music. The volume overall is a bit too loud and we need to reduce it. Instead of using the gain line as we did before, we'll adjust the volume in the inspector. Select the clip, then reveal the audio inspector. Enter -6 in the volume input field and play the music. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. That sounds good, and the levels are averaging around -20 in the mixer. However, the music is still too loud when the voiceover comes in. We're going to duck the music when the narrator is speaking. To keep the focus on the area we need to work on, open the track's index and turn off the visibility of tracks A2 through A5. In the toolbar, select the Focus Mode tool, then place the I-beam over the music just to the left of the first voiceover clip. Click and drag past the last word to create a selection. Place your cursor over the gain line within the selection range, then drag downward until the tooltip reads -12 dB. 4 audio keyframes are automatically created at the boundaries of the selection. Press A to switch back to the pointer tool, press Option X to clear the range, and play back. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. It was a Knight's Gambit. It didn't matter though. This game was over before it began. The volume change is a little abrupt for my liking, so I'll adjust the keyframes by dragging on them. I prefer a slower fade up at the end. While we're here, let's add a fade out at the end of the music. Move your pointer over the upper right corner of the music clip until a drag handle appears. Drag to the left to create a linear fade. Notice that the waveform reacts to the change in volume. Drag until the fade duration is about halfway between the last keyframe and the end of the clip. To change the fade curve, drag on the red control handle. I want the fade to happen slower at the beginning, but faster at the end, so I'll drag upward to create what is often called a logarithmic fade. There's also another way to add fades that's really fast. Move the play to the start of the music clip. Select the clip, click into the timecode field, and type out 12 return to move the playhead 12 frames later. From the trim menu, choose Fade into Playhead. We now have a perfect half-second fade in from the beginning of the clip. Go back to the index and re-enable the visibility for all tracks that are hidden. There are a few small changes I would like to make that will heighten the tension a bit. We'll do this by slowly fading up the high-pitched drone sound. Move your pointer over the gain line toward the head of the clip, and press Option and click to add a keyframe. Option-click the line again toward the end of the clip. Drag upward on the second keyframe and boost it to 5 dB. I also think we could heighten the drama by adding some silence between the drone and thunder before we hear the gunshot. Command-click the A4 and A5 track headers. Move the playhead over the ambient sounds so they become selected. Use the up arrow to move to the start of the drone clip and press Command X to cut them. Using your keyboard, enter -1 period, enter. This moves the playhead backward by 1 second. Press Command V to paste. Play that section back to feel the change that 1 second can make to the story. To add a final flourish to our scene, we're going to add a reverb effect to the gunshots. Reveal the Effects panel, spill open Audio Effects, then select Fairlight Effects. Locate the reverb effect and drag it onto the A2 track. The Effects UI window opens and we see it listed in the Effects section of the track's channel strip in the mixer. Effects can be applied to individual clips or tracks. Clips can have an unlimited amount of effects applied, but tracks are limited to 6. When an effect is applied to a track, a small effects badge appears in the track header. Each effect that you apply will have a unique interface. Some will be quite simple and some will be quite complex. But don't be intimidated by the number of knobs and dials. Even with seemingly complex effects like this reverb, there are just a few key controls that will give you 90% of what you need from the effect. For this plugin, one of the key controls is the room dimensions, visualized by this wireframe rectangle. This control allows you to determine the size of the room that you want to emulate. Like the real world, a smaller room will produce less reverb, while a larger room will produce more. To the right is a graph representing the reverb in amplitude and milliseconds. If you click on the preset menu, you'll find different types of rooms to choose from. Choose Cathedral and notice that both the room wireframe and the graph change dramatically. Solo the A2 track and play back the gunshots. Because the environment is emulating a cathedral, the graph is much longer, indicating that the sound reverberates over a longer period of time and takes longer to decay. Now choose the Studio One preset and play back again. Here we have the opposite effect, a much smaller room with very little reverb in the sound, but the gunshot also sounds punchier at the beginning. You can also preview each preset by creating a loop range. Mark an in and out over these 2 clips, then enable looping. Press Option / to begin looped playback. Then choose a different room from the preset menu. It's really interesting how these different presets change the feel of the scene. For example, the Studio One preset feels grittier and more in your face. But the Plate preset feels subjective and perhaps more dreamlike. Since the main character is retelling his experience, I might go with the Plate preset because it better serves his internal monologue. Close the effect window and clear the range. If you need to disable or make changes to the effect you've applied, move your pointer over the effect name in the channel strip and you'll be presented with 3 options. Clicking the red button will disable the effect but not remove it. Clicking the middle button will bring up the effects UI, and clicking the arrow will present you with an option to delete the plugin. Also notice that you can apply additional effects to the track right from this menu. You can also copy effects from one track to another. For example, perhaps we wanted to apply the same reverb effect to the A3 track. Hold down the Option key, then drag the effect onto the track header. Now the same reverb is applied to both tracks. Solo the A3 track and play back the 2 clips. Great! Now let's watch our finished scene, but let's watch it in the edit page where we started. Press Shift 4. All the work we did in Fairlight appears in the edit page timeline. We never have to worry about round-tripping to another sound app and the possible conforming issues that would result from it. Everything is in perfect sync. Turn off soloing for any tracks. Press the Home key, then the spacebar to play. I can't tell you much. I only remember my last move. It was a Knight's Gambit. It didn't matter though. This game was over before it began. Well, you've made it this far. Congratulations. I hope you picked up more than just a few tips on how to get started in the Fairlight page. Please leave us a comment below, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. And thanks for watching.